to reflect, learn, and move forward as a united community committed to compassion, collaboration, and lasting change. At this time, please direct your attention to the screens for a special opening video.
Birmingham's unhoused community. They're so much more than their circumstances. They are not stats to be used for political talking points. They're not faces to be ignored. They're not burdens. They're mothers and fathers, sons and daughters, children with unrealized potential. They're survivors with stories, souls with dreams yet to be realized. They are not our shame. They are us, and they need our compassion. The city of Birmingham is taking bold steps to support our unhoused neighbors in ways that will both improve services and change perceptions. For the first time, we've dedicated more than $1 million to directly address this growing challenge. But this effort must be bigger than government, and this effort must be bigger than money.
It requires Birmingham's full community of partners to join this fight and stand for every story, every soul, and every life.
Rooted in love and respect for our fellow man, ready to help those in need.
Birmingham is at its strongest when we move in unison. And that's why we will continue to support the work of nonprofits and faith-based organizations who have led the charge in uplifting this community. And we call on all of you, the residents of Birmingham, to take the call to action, to volunteer, to serve, but probably most importantly, to show empathy. Homelessness may feel like a crisis that's too large to tackle. But look into the eyes of those who are displaced. Hear their stories. Feel their pain. They are worth fighting for. There is no problem too big for a city that has already changed the world. We can do it again because they deserve a future.
Please join me in welcoming the Executive Director of the Flourish, Alabama, poet, writer, and creative visionary, Jamon Hill.
Good afternoon. If we are to call Birmingham home, we must become the heart where home is. Community is commitment. It is dedication to a fallen soul. It is recognition that nobody does anything alone. If it takes a village to raise a child, then it takes a village to build a home. The village will still need the village even when we become grown. Support is pivotal. Not because it could be you, but because it is you. If this is your home, then this is your heart. And if you claim this city, then this is where we start. Community is commitment. Community is concern, is care, is conscious, is constant, keeping promise, is seeking and seeing with confidence. Do you see your community? At the park, the highway exits and the vacated buildings or waiting at the shelter, do you see your community? Under the bridge or near the bus station, in the food line now more than ever, it is time to lend a helping hand. Now, more than ever, it is time to take a stand. Now, more than ever, it is time to find a way. Now, more than ever, we can't afford to look away. Community is commitment. It is recognizing we all play a part in making this home a heart. It is making sure King has a roof over his head and that Sarah and her children have a bed. It is making sure stability isn't a luxury, that heat isn't held hostage, that water ain't just for the well-off. A city that can't care for its neighbors is a dying place. And a neighbor that ignores their neighbors only isolates. It takes individuals willing to collaborate, not for recognition, but for the village's sake. Don't forget the village raised you, the ones you call invisible too. We're all finding ways to push through because community is commitment. So let's commit to ensuring each citizen that calls Birmingham home has one. That our heart leads us to action. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my honor to welcome the leader of our city, a champion for equity, for community-centered progress, and for meaningful solutions to homelessness. Please join me in welcoming the mayor of the city of Birmingham, Mayor Randall Woodfin.
Thank you, DJ. Please. I do love you. Good afternoon, everyone. As it was stated by VOG, my name is Randall Woodfin, and I'm honored to serve as mayor of the city of Birmingham. I want to mind my manners first by thanking the Barron's establishment for allowing us to use the space. Second thing I want to do is thank the Birmingham City Council for their leadership and being a partner in this work. I understand the president of the Birmingham City Council, Wardine Alexander, is not present with her, but I want to acknowledge her. Also acknowledge the councilors who are present, and if they are here to stand and or wave their hand, because they are literally doing the work with the administration. In no particular order: Brian Gunn, Dr. Darrell O'Quinn, Sonia Smith, Clinton Woods, and Crystal Smith and Murray. Thank you all so much. Y'all, please give them a round of applause. Got some points here I don't want to deviate from, so let me make two more acknowledgments. Well, three more actually. One is to One Roof. I want to thank them for co-convening and co-hosting this important meeting we are having together as a city and a community. Is so important. And the other is to my colleague, Elena Melton, and all of our team at City Hall for leading on this effort. Elena Melton has poured her heart and soul not only into this gathering today, but leading this work on behalf of the city of Birmingham. So she is somewhere around this building, but I want to express my sincere gratitude for her leadership and her heart. With that in mind, today is about redefining our community. But first, we, as our great poet said, we need to acknowledge what a community is. And we didn't talk before this. He kind of set it up, and it was beautiful what he shared. A community is a group of neighbors, it's friends, it's colleagues. A community is coming together to just support, not just to support your own, but to support our own. And I'm going to put emphasis on our, O-U-R, because our own includes our homeless, our unhoused population. Again, our includes our homeless, unhoused population. The city of Birmingham has worked to support those who work hard for the unhoused every day. And earlier, I thanked One Roof, but the truth is, I'm not sure there's enough time to thank every single partner. Call them by name. The organizations, the foundations, the churches and the faith leaders and the philanthropic organizations and the individual people who are literally in this work every single day. If you're in this room, in that space, could you at least just wave your hand and be acknowledged so we can, all of us, look at you and say thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. At City Hall, we believe that we are a co-partner in the work of addressing and reducing homelessness. But we believe that's just a portion of what the city's responsibility is. As it relates to today and this important meeting, it is about one, framing, and then being able to have the ability to lead this room and go execute on something that's a tangible plan to reduce homelessness in our community. Again, restating, today is about framing the conversation and about how all of us in this room can help those who desperately need it. Homelessness is a complex issue. I don't have to tell anybody that. It's a very complex issue. What I am aware of, having sat in this seat as mayor for a little time now, is that no single agency, not our administration, city government alone, not one program can solve it alone. I think that's worth repeating and putting some emphasis on. The city government in isolation is not responsible for solving this problem, because I'm not sure of any other American city the city government can solve this problem alone. Nor one agency or one program. It takes a collective. It requires a coordinated effort. And I think that's what this moment really, really calls for. You see, we can dust off some existing plans that have been done in Birmingham. In Birmingham, we don't have a shortage of existing plans. Or we can take this moment, have what it takes necessary in a coordinated way to execute. I got some football fans in here, and I know you're either sad or happy about Saturday. Either way, you're probably stressed the entire game. Point I'm making is all of us at some point have a person we admire or an organization we admire. They have the ability to win on the things that they want to accomplish because of a couple of things. One, the ability to play team, but really what I'm talking about in this moment is the ability to execute. It's not enough to have a plan or a coordinated plan or have the people, organizations at the table. It's not enough to just have heart and or a willingness. On this topic, we have to execute. And that is our ability to execute on reducing our unhoused population, on execute on reducing homelessness. And I would not stand before you on this podium in this room with you if I did not believe we could not execute on that. But what I also know about this city, the city of Birmingham, is that Birmingham is a caring community. We're also a giving community, always in the top 10 cities of the most altruistic. But it's also an active community, and my charge today for everyone is for us to recenter ourselves on this topic and activate our coordinated approach to addressing this complex issue. But when we care, when we give, and when we activate, I am confident that the city of Birmingham and our community, there's not one issue we can't take on and actually make a change. So as I close out, I'd like to salute the continuum of care as the backbone of Birmingham's homeless response system, with One Roof leading the coalition and coordinating community-wide efforts. I'd also like to shout out again all the nonprofits, all the faith-based organizations that have provided shelter, street outreach, and permanent housing for decades, because we see you, we love you, and we acknowledge your hard work. But my last thank you is to every single person and or organization in this room. Thank you not only for your attendance, but thanking you for your heart, and the fact that you are here on a cold Monday afternoon shows that you care for those who are unhoused and willing to roll up your sleeves in a coordinated effort to address this with us. So let today be about collaboration. Let today be about compassion. But most importantly, as our great poet said, let today be about community. Thank you so much.
We now invite to the stage the board chair of One Roof, a dedicated advocate for housing stability and community partnership, Tiffany Degree.
Take this way down. It's so good to see so many faces today. Thank you for your time and for coming out here. My name is Tiffany Degree, and in my day job, I'm a litigator at Bradley, and I'm proud to be here today on behalf of both Bradley, our law firm who has donated to become a sponsor of this event and is really taking a step in asking the business community to get more and more involved in here. And so one thing that you will learn, and you will hear a lot today, as has already been said, is the redefining community and what we can do together as a whole to accomplish these goals. So in my non-day job, I am the head of the board of directors of One Roof. And so I want to take this time to just tell you a few things about One Roof. And again, thank you for being here today. Thank you to the sponsors who sponsored, but really a huge, huge, huge thank you to all the service providers. Y'all are the heartbeat of this work. You are the ones who are having the difficult conversations in the community. You are the ones that are left time and time again to say, I'm sorry, there's no better resource, right? And so the only thing to help that is this coordination and community. And so let me take a step back to explain, maybe for those who are a little bit newer to the work, what One Roof is and what the continuum of care that Mayor Whitman just referenced means. So the continuum of care is really a federal designation of nonprofits, local governments, and partners who work together in a community in a coordinated way, in an efficient way, in a way where we are guided by data. We are working together to address homelessness. And One Roof is the entity that manages that coordination. So sometimes, if you have a question that's so hard to answer, you might know one person in your phone, in your contacts, where you're like, I don't know if they know the answer, but they'll know who knows the answer. So imagine that person. That person is One Roof. So if you have a client and you're working as hard as you can to help that person, and there's another resource that you need to get them connected with, or you don't even know what to do, One Roof is the one you call. So thank you for your participation, and we hope that these conversations, I know many of y'all have gotten a chance to be a part of the expo that happened earlier today. There were over 25 different tables, different service providers who are hitting much needed access to these resources. But you can't just have one table, right? A lot of people, as the mayor said, this is definitely an issue that has a lot of different factors. And so what we need is a coordinated effort, and that is where One Roof steps in to help hold the hands and tell you, okay, ooh, this partner has this. Have you tried this partner for resources? So that's who we are. And to conclude, I just want to leave you with a brief call of action. I know a lot of you are already doing the work, the hard work, so I'm going to say rest to you. I'm going to say thank you. I'm going to say let us know if there are others that need to be in this room, but I'm proud that we are here today and we're able to do that work. And if you are in this room and you don't already have a mission on your heart and an organization that you're, passionate about, please use this day as an opportunity to get involved. So you saw out there are 25 partner agencies who would love your help. We have funding needs. We have connections all over the place. No matter who you are, you can bring something to the table. So I ask that you help us today by keeping an open mind, learning what you can. We all have things that we need to learn and hear, and today is just going to be a powerful moment for the community to hear these stories. So again, thank you for being here. The community and the connectivity is what brings this all together. And so even if you are a member organization of One Roof, you've been doing this work for a long time, we hope that the connections that you make today and that you continue will make progress to helping us fill these gaps in our community. And I am so proud on behalf of both Bradley and One Roof that we are all gathered here today trying to see what this community can do better. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, a key has been found. If you think it may be yours, please stop by the audio booth on the left side of the room, and we'll be happy to help you claim it. And now we transition to our State of Homelessness discussion, featuring Elena Melton, Director of Unhoused Strategies, City of Birmingham Mayor's Office, and Gordon Sullivan, Executive Director of One.
Good afternoon. It is too many people in here. Y'all look too good for that sunburn. Hello. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Today is such a big moment for our city, for our continuum of care. And we know that, as the mayor said, on a cold Monday, right after the holiday, you could have been anywhere in the world, and we are thrilled to death that you guys are here with us. Thank you to the mayor and to Tiffany for opening us up. Gordon, I think they did a lot of the hard work for us. We want to thank our poet. Did you guys enjoy those lived experience stories? Have you heard the stories out there? Were they not wonderful, right? Those are the folks that we get to work on behalf of. Those are the faces we want you to think about when we ask you to partner with us in this work. And then we want to thank those partners out there. Can you guys join me in giving them another round of applause? Thank you. Thank you to each of them for what it took to be here today and for the hard work that they do each and every day on behalf of those experiencing homelessness. And then last but not least, if you came in downstairs, I hope you saw our micro shelter unit, our community development department in the back. They're leading that work to create a couple of micro shelter villages. If you didn't come in the stairs, you missed a treat, and that will still be up. So please make sure you go down that way and check out the unit. It's really cool. So, Gordon, a lot of work has gone into today. Do you want to tell folks what we're going to do in these next few moments?
Yes, absolutely. Welcome, everybody. So glad that you could be here today. We are so excited to share with you some information about our homeless response system. Just to give a little framework for our discussion that's about to take place is first we're going to start with where we've been. So we want to give you some history and context of our community's efforts to address the challenges of homelessness. And then we're going to move into the current state of homelessness. So we'll be providing some information on the data, on the trends that we've been seeing. And finally, which we're most excited about, is we're going to share with you the future state of homelessness in our community. We've got so much in the pipeline and we cannot wait to share that information with you.
If we're going to do all that, we better sit down. So you heard the mayor mention that over the last 20 years, there have been a lot of investments, a lot of studies, a lot of research that's been done. And so Gordon and I spent quite a bit of time over these last 3 years going through some of those documents, some of those investments made on behalf of the city and the community at large. And so I just want to briefly share some of the history of where we've been. So we went back as far as 2005. That's as far as we were able to find some information. And a lot of these things will be available on the city's website really soon if there's an actual document we've been able to locate. So there was a needs assessment of Birmingham and Jefferson County. And then for 10 years, there was the Birmingham plan, which we've heard a lot about that lately. And a lot of work, a lot of money, a lot of investment went into that. In 2018, there was Birmingham's plan to prevent and end chronic homelessness, a progress report on the 10-year plan. And then in 2020, the new firehouse shelter was built, and that the city invested in the capital campaign for that. In 2021, there was a report on homelessness in the city of Birmingham. And then also that same year, One Roof did a youth needs assessment. And in 2022, there was a capital investment by the city into the waste station with AIDS Alabama. I think we have a few more, Gordon. And then the continuum care plan for reducing unsheltered homelessness. And in 2023, the city, community development, One Roof, we all became a Built for Zero city. I think we'll hear a little bit about that later. You'll definitely hear about it in our roadmap. Then there were several others, and fast forward to now, 2025, there was Rebuilding Hope, the blueprint for Birmingham to play to its strengths. Also this year, the city has invested its first general fund allocation of $1.5 million. Thanks to the mayor and our city council. I think that deserves a round of applause. We got to thank on this front row for that. And then today, we are here to unveil our roadmap for services for unsheltered residents. So we worked on this for 3 years, but it's really an amalgamation of all of the other plans. We spent a lot of time putting those plans together and learning from the best of them and hoping to not reinvent the wheel. I want to thank many of you who've been a part of planning to that document. And then last but not least, it will be mentioned in the roadmap, but part of our commitment this year is to help build an emergency shelter with Jimmy Hill Mission. So we make a $1 million investment into that capital campaign. So that's where we've been.
All right.
You want to talk a little bit about where we're going?
Yeah, for sure. So before we jump into that, to the current state of homelessness, I do want to take a moment to sort of visualize the information that was shared with you by our mayor and by our board chair, Tiffany. So they had described what a continuum of care is, and I'm a very visual person. I'm not sure if you are, but this graphic sort of helps folks understand the context in which we do our work every day, right? So the Continuum of Care is a coalition of more than 60 partner organizations. These are nonprofits, they are faith-based communities, there are advocacy groups that all play a piece of the puzzle here. The Continuum of Care is the glue that holds it all together. So it's here in the center. On the outside of this circle are all the different moving parts of a homeless response system. So we have service providers that provide street outreach services, those that go out on the street and meet people where they are. We have providers who provide homeless prevention services, so preventing people from entering homelessness altogether. We have our amazing shelter providers providing immediate shelter needs to folks who are experiencing homelessness. And then finally, through the continuum, we move into our most important segments where we actually are housing people, right? So through rapid rehousing and permanent supportive housing programs, we are able to move people into permanent housing. And within this, something that's not in this visual, are all of our mental health professionals, our faith communities who are filling in the gaps, as well as all of our social workers, folks who are providing that crucial case management and wraparound services every single day.
Gordon, I think that's really good stuff. We get that question in the city a lot. Like, what is a continuum of care? What is the COC? What does One Roof really do? Y'all be for real. Before now, how many did not know? You don't have to answer this. But I'm not the only one that gets those questions about what's the COC, right? So I hope that helps. Thank you for sharing that information. And so I want to talk a little bit about where we are now. We got the question earlier in the day about, are we seeing more folks on the street now than ever before? And I just want to kind of set the scene a little bit. So we said time and time again today that there are nearly 400 people that sleep on the streets in Birmingham every night. These are mothers and fathers, someone's brother, someone's child. Some were once professionals. Others have never held a job before. Some are just as impacted. Some are veterans. Some are couples. Some are entire families. Some are children. But very few are unhoused by choice. Most are there due to circumstance, whether that's domestic violence, mental or physical health challenges, an unaffordable housing market, jobs that don't pay a livable wage, or simply life unfolding in ways they never expected. Gordon, tell us a little bit about the visual homelessness that we see.
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the data that's on the screen right now is from our annual point in time count. Many of you guys are familiar with this, but if you're not, the point in time count is an annual census that we do in our community every single January. This really gives us that annual benchmark of like, is homelessness increasing or is it decreasing? So our most recent data show that on any given night in Birmingham, we have 911 people who are experiencing homelessness. As Elena just mentioned, nearly 400 of those individuals are what we would call living unsheltered, meaning they're living outdoors. So this could be someone living in their car, under the bridge, in the park, any sort of situation where they are not sheltered, right? 516 people is estimated to be experiencing homelessness, but in a sheltered situation. This would be somebody who's staying in one of our emergency shelters within our community. Now, we have seen some changes over time, Elena. I think that's what you're mentioning, right? So going to this next slide, homelessness changes over time, and through our point-in-time data, we can really track this trend, right? So it's changing, but in very particular ways, right? So overall, homelessness is decreasing in our community since 2016. You can see it up here on one of our graphs. However, we're seeing some increases and changes in what homelessness looks like in our community. So, around 2019, 2020, we saw an increase in chronic homelessness. This is somebody who's experienced homelessness for a very long time, usually more than a year, but also is living with a disability or a disabling condition that's serving as a barrier to them exiting homelessness. So over the years, we have seen an increase in folks who are experiencing chronic homelessness. One other thing before I turn it back over to you is that the difference between sheltered and unsheltered, right? So sheltered, remember this is people who are staying in emergency shelters. That has been decreasing over time. However, since the pandemic, we've seen a slight increase in the number of people experiencing unsheltered homelessness. So those are folks who are living outdoors or places not meant for human habitation. So homelessness in Birmingham is more visible. We see it more. And I think that's what people really feel.
Yeah, so I was asked a question some time ago if I thought that homelessness had increased since the pandemic or since the World Games in 2022. And I thought that question was particularly interesting because my journey with this work began during the World Games. I was tasked with running the city's cooling station. And during that time, I met 80 of the most dynamic folks you ever want to meet. And little did I know that it would be a journey, just the beginning of a journey with this work. And so because I can vividly remember that point in time and vividly remember the World Games, I think the answer to the original question is yes. Since the World Games, since COVID, I think we're seeing an increase of encampments, increase of calls about encampments of folks that are visibly homeless on the street. And I think for me, a couple of things to know as, yes, we see the increase, but during my time in the women's station and having these 80 faces that I get to carry with me every day, I learned a lot that has definitely maybe given me some patience. That group of folks taught me that being unhoused, it doesn't take away your right to know what housing for you looks like, right? So in that group, I remember Mr. Charles, a gentleman I really enjoyed talking to for Atlanta Days and Nights, broke my heart when he said, I don't want the shelter option that you guys are providing. I'd rather live in my car. And I thought because we had a housing option, surely he should take the option that we have. But he was not shy to let me know, no, I should stay where I stay. And I learned a lot from that moment. I also learned from that time that brilliance lives everywhere. In that group, there were literal geniuses. We had a classically trained pianist, a chess player, and a business executive. I remember the chess players teaching my then 11-year-old son how to play chess, and he still plays to this day, sometimes with the folks that we met in the cooling station. They taught me that one fire could literally change everything, uproot your entire life, and that tragedy suddenly has the world looking at you like you don't have any value. Those 80 people also taught me that those experiencing homelessness have really good ideas about what help looks like for them. I think we heard earlier in the lived experience story, someone told us that if we could fix the mental health crisis, we could solve homelessness. I don't know if that's true, but from their lived experience, I do take that to heart, and I think maybe we all should. All that to say, I learned, yes, the numbers are probably increasing, but now more than ever, we need empathy. They helped me realize that we all have to sit down and listen and be a part of the conversation. So, Gordon, thank you so much for expounding on what has happened.
Yes, thank you for sharing that, Elena. I want to share some more data with you guys. Folks who know me in the room know that I just talk about data. So I'm going to try to,
I'm the comic relief.
Yes, I'm going to be brief about this. But so far we've looked at this point in time data, which is just an annual estimation that we do every year. I want you to understand that our system also looks at our system performance every single month. And one of the things that we look at is the inflow and the outflow of our system. Now, inflow is, when I say that, I just mean when people become homeless, that's our inflow. How many people are becoming homeless and entering our system for the first time? Outflow is how many people are we exiting through our system, like how good of a job are we doing and getting people to housing situations through our system. So we look at this inflow and outflow each and every month, and what that tells us is our system keeping pace with the rate of homelessness in our community? In an ideal, perfect world, we want it to be a one-to-one match, right? Whenever someone enters our system, we have a housing solution to exit them from our system. As you can imagine, some months our system does better than other months. So on some months we might see a higher inflow and a lower outflow. But as you see in this graph, sometimes our outflow is higher than our inflow, which means we're reducing homelessness. One important fact here, and I do want to share because it's very exciting and very good news, is a mark of progress in reducing chronic homelessness in our community. I had mentioned just before with the point-in-time data that chronic homelessness has seen an increase between 22 and 2023. We've actually seen a reduction since 2023 to today. So in November of 2023, on average, we have about 510 chronically homeless individuals running through our system, the inflow. In just last October, that was reduced down to 410. So that's almost a 20% reduction, which is real progress.
That is wonderful. So Gordon is the data person and I'm the storyteller. So to oversimplify that, if you're like me, we want to get our system at a one-to-one. For every one person that enters, we won't know more than one person. So one person leaves, another person enters. That's in layman's terms. I want to tell a little story about my friend David that we met in the cooling station. Again, those 80 folks I met, I probably could tell you all of them by name, but David really sticks out, and we're still in touch to this day. And I hope this will bring some of the points home for us as well. David was a military, he is a veteran, a Birmingham native, and he has experienced homelessness in a number of different cities, but he had landed back in Birmingham during the World Games, and our stories collide at the cooling station. Every day he'd come in with a different vocabulary word, and I was anxious, ready to hear what the word of the day was going to be. Affectionately, I started calling him vocab because he was going to hit the door with a new word of the day. And when the cooling station was about to close, I would ask him and everybody else, where are you going to go? What happens next? And we saw a lot of those living days. We saw other municipalities drop people off. We're going to deal with that in the roadmap. We saw people get housed though. Like those 11 days, people did get housing. People did say yes to shelter. Some people went to rehab. Some folks, we got families on the phone and there was some reunification of families. But David was like, no. It's not my time. I'm not ready to accept the help yet. And I want to give a shout out to our VA because when we travel to other places, other cities are struggling with their veterans. The VA is one place when we pick up the phone and we call those social workers at the VA, they say, we got him from here and we don't have to worry about our veterans. So I knew if we could get him with the VA, he would be fine, but he said no. So for months later, I would see him in our downtown library and I would ask, what's it going to take for you to take help? What is it going to take? And he would always say, Miss Elena, I'm not ready yet. Miss Elena, I'm not ready. And then months went by and I didn't see him. And I was a bit concerned until I was talking to another service provider. I hear that he had gotten into rehab, gotten himself a part-time job, and he was housed. And I'm really proud to say that we're some 3 years later and he's still stably housed. That took a lot. Yes, that's what I'm saying. That took a lot of fortitude on his own, but I want to be really clear that we have a system that worked well for him. And so, Gordon, I would ask if you don't mind kind of explaining behind the scenes, what had to happen for someone like David to go from chronically homeless? Remember, that's somebody who's been unhoused for a year or more with a predetermined condition. Will you tell us a little bit about what would have happened to get him from homeless to housed?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a question we get all the time. How do people get out, right? We have this amazing continuum of care, many partners, many services, but if you're experiencing homelessness, where do you even start? So I brought this graphic back up just to give a little visual again. Remember, I'm a visual person, so we're gonna walk through it together. Somebody who is experiencing chronic homelessness can enter and access our system in a couple different ways. You can imagine this as our front door to our system. One of those front doors is through street outreach and coordinated entry. Those street outreach teams are the ones that are out in the community every single day, meeting people where they are and where folks are living outdoors. Additionally, another front door to our system is our emergency shelter system. And quite often that is the first sort of point of contact people have with our homeless response system. Once folks enter our system through our front doors, they are then, have a housing assessment completed. And it's not a test, it's not a pass-fail. The housing assessment simply helps us identify what is it going to take to move someone out of homelessness and into housing. And through that sort of intake process and that assessment, we then can connect people to the different programs and services we have within our continuum of care.
So I think that's a really good point. So I guess another question that is also answers is, why does it take so long to get people housed? And so basically what you're explaining is it takes as long as it takes. The time frame varies depending on the person and the situation. But the truth is, it's not that it's so long, it's just that it's a process.
Yes, it's a process. And I wish I had a better answer for you, but it does take a little time. And here's why. Because our capacity within our system to serve everyone who's experiencing homelessness is limited. We'll be quite honest with that. We do not have enough beds to serve everyone that is experiencing homelessness in our community. This is our bed inventory. This is our capacity as a system to serve people who are experiencing homelessness. You can see the orange bars are the ones for 2025. This is how many beds we have. So we have the most permanent supportive housing beds. These beds are designed for those who are experiencing chronic homelessness. It's the most intensive housing intervention that we have in our community. Folks get moved into permanent housing, and they're also provided wraparound services to keep them there. Additionally, we have 425 emergency shelter beds in our community. And as you see, also we have rapid rehousing beds. That's another permanent housing solution, as well as transitional housing beds in our community too. Now, once people get to a bed, I will say our system is very good at keeping people from returning to homelessness. Another big question we often get is, do people experience homelessness again after they receive intervention through our continuum of care? 82% do not return to homelessness.
I think that deserves another round of applause. That's a pretty big deal.
So this return to homelessness is within a 2-year period. So that's the rest of the graph there. So 11% of that 18% return within the first 6 months, 4%, 3%. So it's just showing that our interventions work. And I think the most important message there is that if we meet people where they are with the correct housing intervention and the wraparound support services for them, we can have stability, right? Folks can have stability in their lives and rejoin and be our community and also give back as well.
You know, I think if my friend David were here today, he would have a lot to say. One such thing would be that we should spend a lot less time judging and more time finding ways to help, much like the community came together to help him. I think he is a walking, talking example that people experiencing homelessness are not a different species, that we're all human, that we all need grace at some point, but what that grace looks like just varies from person to person. He also represents the best of what happens when our community comes together, and I think
You just outlined, worded for us really well what happens when service providers, government, both local and federal, in this case the VA, the continued care, of course, comes together to change his life, which is ultimately continue to change lives because he's employed with one of the service providers that helped him. So that's really cool stuff. So thank you so much. So the obvious question is, what's the city gonna do, right? We've said a lot of stuff, and we've teed up quite a bit. Enter the city's roadmap of services for unsheltered residents. This has been a labor of love. For the last 3 years, this is what we've been working on. We've taken the 20 years of history. Like I said, we met for hours with many of you in this room to come up with a document that we're really, really proud to share. Some of you already started, but please feel free to snag the QR code here to get a link to a copy of it, but also we'll have some copies when the event is over while they last. I want to be clear before we get into this document, when the city steps forward, sometimes about this issue of homelessness, we always get the question, is the city going to direct serve? We hear the murmurs, have y'all lost your mind? This is not what a city's supposed to do, but it is what a good neighbor is supposed to do, right? I want to be real clear, and I think the mayor would share, I know the mayor shares this sentiment. The city of Birmingham remains firmly committed to core responsibilities, which is cleanliness, public safety, and neighborhood revitalization. And that commitment extends to every resident of the city of Birmingham, both housed and unhoused. We're not stepping back from basic city services, we're just strengthening them. Every person in Birmingham deserves to live in a community that is clean, safe, and supportive. And so I want to share a little bit about this roadmap. Our promise is through a few strategies to protect public safety, uplift neighborhoods, and ensure dignity and accountability for everyone who calls Birmingham home. So really quickly, just high level, we'll go over the goals. The rest of the document I encourage you to read on your own time. But goal 1, we want to offer preventative services to avert homelessness. So you met a lot of our service providers earlier today, but that's just a fraction. Those are many of the ones that are part of the continuum of care. There are some others that are not a part of the continuum that are working with us to address the issue of homelessness. Goal 2, we want to reduce chronically homeless population by 40%. So many of the people that you see visually in encampments and living on the street, many of those are chronically homeless. That means they've been homeless for a year or more, and they have some diagnosis, whether it's mental health or physical challenge. Goal 3, we want to reduce the number and intensity of encampments. That's a big one, right? We're all getting calls about encampments. An encampment, as defined here, is one person or group of people. I want to park here for a moment. We want to be really responsible in how we address encampments. So it's not just as simple as let's call a city and have this encampment move. We want to give folks their dignity, allow them time to decide what's trash and treasure, and help them move. But more importantly, we're working on a strategy that will address encampments one by one. And as we close encampments, we would like to offer housing to folks and not just simply displace them. Yeah. Goal 4, reduce the number of youth experiencing homelessness. We currently have about 100 young people who are unhoused in Birmingham. I want to be clear, HUD defines youth as someone between ages of 18 and 24 that's living alone. We want to house all 100 of those young people. Goal 5, we want to develop a sustainable shelter framework to support residents during extreme weather conditions. I want to be really clear. Pathways and Jimmy Hill Mission, I know their directors are here. They do wonderful programs with our warming station. We have definitely a reputable model, something to be proud of with those two agencies. But we want to expand. What happens on the hottest days? Where do people go? What does coordination for those services look like? And then also tornadoes, being prepared. How do we move a large group of people and make sure that our folks who are unhoused are safe during those times as well? And then goal 6, provide housing insecure residents with access to permanent supportive housing. We're so fortunate to have a thriving community development. You'll hear soon from one of the members of our housing authority, who are all great partners in this work. Goal 6 is going to be a big one. This is, if you want to jump in, this is where we'll need a lot of help. And so more to come, but please check out the roadmap. A lot of hard work went into it, and you'll see more information on how we want to tackle these goals and how we plan to hold ourselves accountable. And we welcome you to do the same. Gordon, you want to talk about what's next for the COC?
Yes, I'm very excited about this. So if you haven't caught on, we're moving to our future state here. So we're talking about what are we going to be doing moving forward. And the Continuum of Care, as that coalition of many organizations working together, we have some movement that is happening, and we're excited to share this with you. One is what we're calling standards of care. So what we mean by this is that if you go to one service provider and receive a certain level of service and care and coordination and wraparound services, but then you go to another provider in our community, you receive the same level of service. We're trying to standardize the way that we provide services and the way that we practice in the field. And part of that is sort of level setting that expectation. So if somebody's experiencing homelessness, they can go to any one of our partners and still receive that same level of care as they would if they went to a different partner. Additionally, second, we are going to be enhancing our street outreach services. We have so many great street outreach teams out there from our different organizations. Urban Alchemy's right there. We got JBS. We have One Roof. We have our street outreach team. We have Hope House in the VA and Priority Veterans. We have all these partners that are doing street outreach, but we want to be even more coordinated with it, right? So those street outreach leaders and teams have started meeting already in person to really sort of coordinate those efforts, because we want to make sure we cover our entire geographic area with street outreach so that every single person who wants assistance can get assistance. And finally, I'm most excited about this. So this month we're rolling out a new collaborative project. It's called Care for Our Journey. This new street outreach program is the first of its kind in our community. It is proudly sponsored by the City of Birmingham and then also Jefferson County as funders. And it is a partnership between One Roof, Recovery Resource Center, and Cahaba Medical. We also have additional partners with Addiction Prevention Coalition, UAB, and of course, Food for Our Journey, where the namesake comes from. So this street outreach team is combining medical care, it's combining recovery, support, and care, and it's also providing housing services. This model has been implemented across the nation, and we are proud to bring it here to Birmingham. So bringing those things together, we know that in one united team, we can provide an excellent level of service to folks who are living on the street.
I'm so excited about all of those. So thank you for sharing my excitement. You know, if housing is the end game and community is the way to get there, all the things that you just outlined absolutely help us get there. And I think it's a really good time too, just to thank our partners again. We've rolled out a lot, but it's not an indictment on our partners. We are really fortunate that many of the service providers that are implementing some of this work they're right along with us. Like, they're in the conversation. So this is not us to them, it's all of us together. So I think that may be what I'm the most excited about in all of these things. So thank you. So as we talk about where we are, there's one glaring thing we can't overlook, even though it might be easy to, and that's the changes in the federal government. Don't run away now. So I think most of us by now have probably heard that the Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, has recently announced a lot of changes around housing in particular, and some changes that will affect our folks experiencing homelessness. Gordon, do you want to share a little bit about what those changes could look like for our city?
Yeah, absolutely. It is.
I'm sorry.
It's a continuously changing situation, right? So our homeless response system in our community relies heavily on federally funded assistance programs. So the Continuum of Care program brings in about $10 million in funding to support housing, to support street outreach, all of these services that we provide. So a change in federal funding means a change and significant shift on our local level too. So what the Department of Housing and Urban Development is considering is moving away from a permanent housing model intervention to a more temporary assistance-based programs. If you recall that bed inventory count that I pulled up, the majority of what we have in our community is permanent housing. So the shift is scary, but what I do know is that our system of care is still learning. Our system of care is resilient. Our system of care knows what works in Birmingham, and that is permanent housing. So we will continue to meet that challenge despite what's happening on a federal level, and part of doing that is addressing a local challenge with local support.
Yeah, that's a lot. So we have taken a journey through the past. We've talked about where we are now. We talked about where we're going. Gordon gave us some not great news. And so I think this is a really good time for us to just, as a community, collectively exhale. Y'all do it with me. Just cleanse the room for a moment. I think it's important to pause, right? Like, that doesn't feel great to hear. And while we have some really promising things to share, that does leave a lot of questions. But I don't think we can pause too long, because if I understand correctly, many of these changes take effect December 30th of this year, right?
Yes, very soon.
So we can't pause very long. We can't rest on our laurels. What we're learning, what we're hearing is the cavalry is not coming. Mm-hmm. And so we've got to save our community, ourselves. It's going to take all of us. And so that brings me to what we came here today for, and that's the state of homelessness. What is the state of homelessness in the city of Birmingham? We think the state of homelessness is to be determined. We're writing a story that is still in progress. And that brings us shared challenges and questions, I'm sure, but it's definitely hope, particularly in a city like Birmingham, Alabama. You heard the mayor say it before. We've changed the world before. Surely we can change it again for those experiencing homelessness. But we got to do it together. And we hope the message is clear that we got to do it by redefining community. And so to really redefine community, it's going to take patience on each and every one of our parts, and determination for the person experiencing homelessness. They have a part to play as well. It's going to take grace and open-mindedness. I'm sure many of us have been in tough conversations that we didn't understand and we may not all agree, but we're going to have to work together to find common ground, even if we don't agree. Redefining community will mean being good neighbors. This is true for our residents and our service providers. It will require a sharing of resources like never before. No more silos. And to those who began breaking the walls of silos, we say thank you. To our neighborhood leaders that are in the room, it'll ask the question of you of what does engagement and creativity on a neighborhood level look like? We, the city, to clean up your neighborhoods. Trust me, we do. But please keep in mind that your currently unhoused neighbor may be your housed neighbor one day. To our businesses, it'll ask the question of you, how can you support these efforts while we, the city, support you? Trust me, we hear your concerns and we care about what you care about. We care about our residents that are experiencing homelessness as well. To our faith community, it will ask the question of you, in what ways can you open your doors both literally and metaphorically? We need you. To our civic leaders in the room, we need you too. We're not crazy. We know that it's not going to always be rainbows and sunshine. Redefining community is going to take ordinances and legislation as well. It's not all about changing minds and hearts. Some of it's going to require change laws. I have a friend sitting on the third row who taught me that changing minds sometimes begins with change laws. To our law enforcement, yeah, redefining community is going to require you to. I want to be really clear. The city of Birmingham has no plans to criminalize homelessness. It is not illegal.
Thank you.
It is not illegal to be unhoused, unsafely housed, or poor in Birmingham. However, our police department is locked in on decreasing crime in our city, and those who are found breaking laws will be held accountable. So maybe I missed you. Maybe I didn't come down your aisle, or I didn't say the thing that you wanted to hear. But trust me, there is room in the end. So please, before you leave today, grab me, grab Gordon, and we can help you find a place to fit in, because we need all of you. Thank you so much for your time, and we will be back in just a few.